Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're getting back where we left off with the drive shaft tunnel. We already got the templates done. This is how it's going to be set up. Really liking that profile, nice and low. Matches with the other one. If you want to see how we bent this up and figured it out, you want to go watch the video before this one. We're going to mark the bottom so we can cap off any cross members. Once we do that, we can pull the 3 pieces out and transfer them to some sheet metal. Then we can get to bending. We'll do all 3 pieces. I already marked where the other 2 pieces are right there, and we'll trim that. And then once we get all 3 of these pieces tacked into place, then we can set that in for mock-up. And if we're happy with that, go ahead and start welding the interior up, getting it finished up. Then, once we get that all welded up, we can wipe it down, clean it up, vacuum it out, and we can do some seam seal. Once the seam seal's done, then we get to work on this front end. I'm ready for that. I'm ready to get that front end on to close this all up. It'll look really good. All right, let's go ahead and jump right back into it. Let's get this cab closed up. I know y'all are ready to see it. It's all cut out, pretty much close. I made it bigger by a little bit, as you can see here. That way I got a little bit of extra play, and I can always trim it down if I need to be, or it needs to. Trusty old bandsaw, just a baby, but it'll do what it needs to do. Before I actually bend the metal all the way, I initially had 4 bends in the back. And then as you can see, I ran some bends to this one. And then from this one, it ran the other 3 from this side per. Well, this doesn't have a bend anymore. It's just gonna be bent down here on this end like this, just a little flat, completely flat. So I don't need the bends until up here. So I'm gonna go see what'll happen if I draw the lines from here to all of them down there, and I wanna see how it comes out. So we'll get Get the bender out of its corner. Then we'll start playing with the template before I start bending that up. Again, I don't want to bend this lip up. I mean, I could bend all that up and then just re-straighten just the lip, or I can measure an inch or two up and then start bending and see if that helps keep this flat. We'll see. We'll see how we do this transition. Metal manipulation. We've got that set into place. It needs some more trimming. It's a hair wider than the hole I made because not everything's going to be exactly how I wanted it on that bender. Really not bad. It needs to go down further as it's sitting up top over there and there, but like I said, I need to trim more. But I'm really liking that profile. So we'll get out the tools again, and then we'll do some trimming, setting it in place, trimming. You know the deal. So we'll get this thing prepped. Once we get this piece set into place, then we'll start working on the little gap pieces. I ain't even bent them up yet. One piece at a time. Forgot to film cleaning up the edges of the tunnel. You already saw, we cleaned up the edges in here. Went ahead and trimmed where we needed to trim. And now it's got plenty of room. So we'll go ahead and set it in place, tack it in, and then we'll start working in on both of these pieces. Or maybe I'll just set it in place. That way, in case it needs trimmed, I can trim it without having to cut it out. But if you only add 2 tacks, it ain't so hard to cut out. We'll get this finished up. Once we get all this tacked in, we'll go ahead and weld everything up. trimming, a little bit of marking, a little bit of trimming. And that's what we have. Definitely took a lot of bending one way or the other, but that's what we have. I'll trim this piece to where it ain't overlapping, and then I need to go and we'll do the driver's side. So one more piece, and then we can do some trimming and start tacking. Once I tack everything in, we'll put that in to make sure it clears. If it doesn't, then we're gonna be notching that, because this is as close as I'm gonna allow it. If I can put my hand all the way around, it gives me a good inch, maybe inch and a half clearance all the way around at the top. Sides and bottom have more. Definitely coming out nice. I am very happy with that flow. Pretty much 90%, 95% where they're gonna be. So now I need to go ahead and take all the pieces out, trim whatever needs to be trimmed that I have marked. These filler pieces are where they're gonna be, but when I remove this, you can see I have a little bit of trimming to do. So I'll trim that up because I don't want anything overlapping. Everything's gonna be welded as one piece. I'll leave a nice little 16th inch gap in between all these pieces, so when I go to weld it, it'll all be one piece. I don't like doing the overlapping. They're just set there in place for now. Like I said, next, we'll pull everything out, trim them up, start tacking it in. That's how it's gonna be. Again, I keep saying I really like that profile. When I weld those two together, I'll make sure they're flush. There won't be that little lip on all of them and stuff like that, but pretty nice and tight. That's how you want it. All right. Awesome. Hey, if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. That way you get notified, you know, of more content when they come out. quick little update. I had to climb, as you saw underneath there, and use my separating pliers to get this nice and snug. It's tacked up for now, some of it on this side. Like I said, that profile, look at that. Yeah, it's starting to look good. We'll get it all tacked up for now. Get that other side in there. I'll probably go ahead, since I can clamp to it, should probably go ahead and see how I tacked all this nice and snug. Should probably go ahead and tack this thing all the way more. I have a few, but we need to go in between each one, just like we did there, and then we'll go back again. This isn't thin material. I'm using 16 gauge. I use 16 gauge for all my interior sheet metal, tubs, all that. I like it to be nice and thick, if something were to happen. It's thicker than factory. Now on this truck, it is thicker than factory. On your newer vehicles, it's way thicker than factory. But somehow I know how to work with it. I mean, look at all them creases in that one piece. You got a 4+4 right there. The other one's the same way. I don't know how, but I know how to bend this metal and get it to manipulate it to where I want it. All right, let's keep this thing, let's keep rocking. There it is, last piece of the puzzle. Now that it's all tacked in, I like the shape, it flows. Let's see if we can get here to show you. Nothing sticks out. Both sides, they don't get fully welded. We'll go around both sides, but before we weld anything up, like I keep saying, we need to test fit that bench seat real quick. I mean, if it doesn't fit, what are we gonna do? Redo it any lower? And like I said before, I'm as low as I wanna be comfortably. So worst case scenarios, I can always throw a little spacer up underneath where the seat mounts and raise it up a hair. But let's go ahead and test that out. That way we can get this welded up. Be done with this cab. It's in, but it needed raised. That's all right. And raise it up just a little bit for some clearance. So now that's in and we know it works. We can make it work. We can pull the seat back out and start welding everything up. Once I weld everything up, we'll clean it up a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and seam seal it. Then we'll throw some paint on it. Then we can tackle this front end. and pushed and made it a late night tonight. Went ahead and got both sides completely welded up. I need to take a wire wheel and then a grinder and just lightly go over, make sure there's no sharp edges before we do seam seal. I tacked it everywhere. And then I went in between those tacks. And then when I had a good inch in between them, I stitch welded them, as you can see, but I stitch welded every other gap. But once they got close enough, then you can just go ahead and blast it. Like I said, we got both sides. I'm gonna clean up the inside, then I need to get the cab in the air as much as I can, and then just run a grinder, just like I said, right across all the edges. So if you're down there ever doing maintenance or nothing, you ain't gonna cut yourself. So, all right, all of it's all sealed up, ready to go. So once we clean it up, we'll tape it up and then we'll seam seal it. And then once I seam seal it, we'll put the bench in. And then the interior is done. Then we can go ahead and move on, like I keep saying, onto this front end. That front end's gonna complete the look. And then once that's on, got enough clearance in the engine bay for the wheels, then we're going to tackle the bed. I'm ready to get this thing out of here. It's been here long enough. Nothing negative about it, but I got a lot of other projects on the way. Waiting patiently in line. Can't thank you guys enough for that. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications for me. That way you get notified when this one's done and the other stuff comes in. Look at that. That's a sight I like to see. All taped up and prepped for seam sealer. Got both sides. You saw on the camera I got the other side. I was doing this side. It's a little easier than trying to flip the camera back and forth, especially when would be just jumping back and forth. So I just reached over it and went ahead and just took care of it. I'm using a seam sealer that I normally don't use. They don't make the 3M Dynatron seam sealer anymore. And if they do, it's a pain in the butt to get. Gotta get through Amazon. Can take forever. So this is one I found up at O'Reilly's, and it looks like a lot of places have it. And we're gonna give it a shot. It looks like it'll. All right, let's get it to focus there. It says up there that it bonds to all kinds of stuff, not just metals. Aluminum, plastic, galvanized stuff, fiberglass, glass. So I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but time to try it out. And then once we get this seam sealed, I'm not sure if I'm gonna find a blue primer that matches that, which I probably will, and then we'll prime that. Once it's primed, that's it. I'll be able to put the seat in and the cab's done. All right, let's get the seam sealer in there so it can dry. super excited to have this transmission and drive shaft tunnel done, at least on the inside of the cab. Still need to spray some primer on it, but that's not something I have to worry about right now. We can do that down the road before we put the seat back in. I want to get that front clip on first. And before we do the front clip, we need to lift up the cab. I want to run the grinder across any edges. That way it's not going to catch anything if anybody's under there. And then I want to go ahead and prime or paint the bottom side so it's protected and we don't have to mess with that anymore. This seam sealer, I like it. It's a little messy. Oh, forgot a piece of tape right here. Let's see if I can get it without getting messy. I had gloves on before. All right, there we go. It's pretty sticky, rubbery. I like it a lot better than the other kind I was using. It seems like it'll get into the crevices better, and it looks like it'll stay rubbery, at least elastic, however you pronounce it, whatever. That way it can flex if the body needs to flex, or whatever joint you're using needs to flex. We still need to put everything back together in the rear end now that we have that mount and I don't have to get underneath it. I do actually have to get underneath it, but we'll go ahead and get the bags and everything back in, get all that back together so we can get this cab and everything raised up, and then we'll air out the frame once we separate it. And like I said, we can go ahead and lightly clean up the inside. Not bad at all. It came out really good. Like I said, I really like it. We'll let this dry, get this time to cure, and we'll get some other stuff knocked out. But that's gonna be it for this episode. We got a lot more to go on this. When I say that, I mean there's a lot more getting pushed. I keep saying I'm ready for this thing to be done in here. I'm ready to get it finished and get something else in. Also, guys, I want to say thank you so much for watching. All the new subscribers, I appreciate you. And again, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good weekend.